Carly, when do you mark out? Like when in your career have you marked out? Well, from the moment I started at Drive, where my second client on the table was Scarlett Johansson, there does become a level of normalcy. And having been in pro sport before that, you kind of develop a level of professionalism that you don't mark out. But here's a couple stories. Certainly, I remember like yesterday the first time walking into the Nets Champion Center in East Rutherford, New Jersey. That was the practice center back in the fall of '99. Remember, I graduated only a few months ago. Just how clean and how big and plush all the locker spaces were in the locker room. It was. I remember it like yesterday. It was amazing. Being in the training room, where at that point in my career, I was much more of an athletic trainer. I'm like, oh my God, they have everything. And they have stuff I'd never seen before because it was so expensive in terms of, the biggest one would be the heel and lace pads. In the NBA, there's heel and lace pads that are felt that you put the jelly on, but then there'll be stickers. So you put the pre-wrap on and then you put the white stickers. And especially in the D League, when we did have the opportunity to spend our own money, the second year, not the first year, I had all the stuff that people had never seen before because it was only at these super high level budgets. So I remember that. I also remember the first time we walked on the plane. I don't remember where we're going. I remember a lot of the preseason where in Mexico, where I ordered an $1,800 bottle of wine without knowing it. I remember taking the board from Ted Arzonico. That might have been the first game where we probably played the Knicks in Houston, in Albany, or maybe it was Hartford. How about them apples? That's not the markout story. The markout was the first time I walked on the plane and I saw all this food. Oh my God. So I took 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because it's, whatever the flight was. And I remember eating the 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And then, not 10, 15 minutes later, the flight attendants come around taking your order for like a full meal, where I was so stuffed, but I couldn't not eat the food and look like a rookie that didn't even know what I was doing. So not a positive mark out, but I remember really, really genuinely. During my time at Drive, I don't know that, again, it's a different version of me marking out like, oh my God, oh my God. I really enjoyed my time with Josh Brolin. And that is why we do the picture. He knew he was doing it. I'd never seen any fan that is actually doing the snap with Josh Brolin, doing his Thanos face. And we talked a lot about the character of Thanos to the point that he said, wow, you seem to really understand the character. First of all, I'm sure he's not having this conversation about the psychology of Thanos in the MCU, but that was definitely marked out. And also knowing that I did not cross boundaries because he came to see me multiple times when he came back to New York City. So that one, and that's the picture. Obviously, given my fandom of those movies and comic books in general, and for him to not only engage in that conversation, but just be genuine. Here's someone that I was helping, and really appreciated the help. First time I met Shane McMahon, wow, that dude really has big arms. Him telling me, I'm like, okay. There was a point when right before Shane kind of left New York to go to China, where I believe he set up some type of pay-per-view system there. It's kind of his first foray away from New York and at the time WWE. So that again would have been around 2012. I was gonna take over, being his top guy. So one of the conversations we had, and this was a mark out moment, and Don was over here, we're talking to Shane, who, as most people know, is a very large human, so big dude. I said, listen, man, I figure I'll never meet your dad, so I'll say it to you what I would say to him. And I said, there's 2 words that I would say. And of course, you think I'm going to say suck it. Except the 2 words that I said was thank you. Thank you for being a part of just having something every week that you look forward to where it's part of your life. And he goes, wow, like that's really not what I expected you to say. I said, I know. And that's why I framed it that way, for a little bit of drama and some interesting conversation, but genuinely to be able to tell him, and I don't think it would even be of interest to tell his dad at this point, but I probably would tell the same, because you can separate things. That was a big mark out moment. Here's a story. It's the only Kobe story that I have. Didn't really connect with him very much. I did have connection when he had Joe Carbone, who was his guy from Philly, traveling with him. So we were playing the Lakers at Staples. And whether anybody knows or not, at that time, visiting team would share the weight room with the home team. I remember Indiana, because their weight room was kind of like in their locker room. We just used the Fever because they had a separate weight room. So I think now it's much more standardized in terms of, you have your own little setup in your own locker room, et cetera. Anyway, so we had a significant group of players that trained before the game, and so did the Lakers at that time. I'm going to leave out the name of but you could figure it out, because if I say it the way I remember it, it doesn't paint this fellow in a very, very good light. I will say that if you do figure it out, this fellow has been incredibly paternal, probably doesn't even remember what he said, and maybe he didn't mean it that way. But yeah, everybody's training, and I'm kind of standing over here, and Kobe was with Joe on one of the platforms, a very small space at Staples, doing some type of Olympic lifting. Because I remember the bar, bumpers in an Olympic platform. I don't remember what lifts he was doing, but it was some type of Olympic derivative. My guys are doing my thing, and whoever the Lakers were doing their thing. And one of their guys who I'd known, and I said, "This is awesome," insert name. The only time I get to learn your stuff is when we come here once a year and we share the weight room. This is awesome. It'd be great if you write a book. And I was being very genuine, but again, I think most people know my tone and being a joker. I was actually very serious, because this individual had some very, very unique stuff that you hadn't really seen before, even to this day. And his response was, "I did write a book. You wouldn't understand it if you had seen it anyway." And then it's like, complete silence. As I said, it doesn't paint him in a good light how I remember this. If somebody had a different story, that's fine. And then I remember within this, probably was 1.8 seconds, and it felt like eternity, Kobe drops the bar, and he just stares at me. In my way of remembering this, and certainly how I felt right there, it was almost like he was giving me permission to go at the guy because of what he said. That's how I took it, even though obviously there was no words. But he looked right at me, and I looked right back at Kobe, and I was like, "All right, man." Like, I just gave one of those, and that became a story to talk about for a long time. So again, not marking out, but something that I would remember. So marking out, like in professional wrestling terms, just means you're a mark. You're a big fan. You think it's all real. You go crazy when you see the guys. It's a little bit different than being just a fan or enjoying the product. I think it actually comes from the prostitution world, where a mark is or criminals, like, that's a mark. That's somebody who they're going to pickpocket or they're going to rob. So if you're so engrossed that you think wrestling is real, you're a mark. And marking out would be like just going nuts, and it probably translated into being something that's not such a disgusting thing, like robbing someone. So I don't know if all of those are marking out, but the genuine thing is, like, I don't get super excited because I am trying to shock people. I am trying to create results that are absolutely shocking. So if I'm trying to do it, it's not very common that marking out or getting excited and being happy, etc. This is what I'm supposed to do. Now, that makes your peaks high and your valleys low, and I get it. That's probably not a great idea. And if you scroll down Instagram, keep scrolling. When we were doing some of those IG lives, Olympic athlete CEO now, was, no, you should take your flowers. I don't do that. I don't. And whether Tyrone says it or not, I don't do that. So I learned very early in pro sports to just act normal. Yes, I have been to strip clubs with professional athletes and snuck out of the hotel. Looking back, I don't know that we really snuck out, but we snuck out. So it wasn't like I never acted in an unprofessional way, which I think a lot of people in celebrated environments act like that all the time. That's the normal. But I learned quickly that, like, just you can't do those things. You shouldn't do those things. So you don't get excited. It's a job. And what does get me excited is that when I am consistently able to just shock people in what I'm doing or how I'm communicating, et cetera. That's really what drives me. It's not really what I get excited about. If there is a situation where, oh man, like, this looks tough, and you just try your stuff and then it does work, that's happened recently, and like, wow, like, I feel really good. Like, I'm the hit man. They didn't even know why they were bringing me in, and all of a sudden we were able to do something that nobody else had been able to do for a long period of time. Doesn't always stick, etc., but it shows that something is possible, and that's really the thought process of what I'm trying to accomplish. That's what I would mark out for.